I'm your host, Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as The Erotic Adventures of Hercules and Dial M for Murderousness.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Jade.
And I'm Paul.
And this is Shall We Compare Thee, a remake and sequel podcast. We are continuing our MVP series, Murderers, Villains, and Private Eyes, serving up some more murder mystery film reviews.
We've got a good one for you. 1954's Dial M for Murder.
The New York Times called it tingling with excitement.
The Detroit News said it's the best crime play in years.
The London Daily Mail headlined, "A murder thriller with a difference."
The New York Daily Mirror wrote, "It holds your attention like a vice."
Where's the nearest police station?
What could you tell them?
I should simply tell them that you're trying to blackmail me into murdering your wife. Fantastic, isn't it? But you know he's right, don't you, Tony? You've worked it out to the smallest detail. And this man is to be your murder weapon for the perfect crime. And you, Margot, you've been living dangerously, too dangerously. A married woman with a two-party line to your affections. And Mark, ironic, isn't it, that in this design for death, you should be selected to be the perfect alibi for the murder of the woman you love.
Are you ever going to tell Tony about us?
No, I couldn't possibly tell him. Not now.
There is evidence, however, that he was blackmailing you.
Blackmail? Yes, I'm afraid it's true, Tony.
And you suggest that he came in by the window, and we know that he came in by that door.
But he can't have come in that way. That door was locked.
You could have let him in.
Hello?
And today we are up to our old tricks, kinda. We've got a comparison episode, sort of Dial M for Murder with a little touch of A Perfect Murder thrown in for good measure. Just a little pinch of it.
An honorable mensch.
Yes. So yeah, we're going back to the Hitchcock. Guys.
Yeah, hitching it up. I'm excited.
We're doing it.
Yes,
back to the Hitchcock.
we're doing it.
1954's Dial M for, what a year. Dial M for Murder and Rear Window in 1 year. That's a lot.
That's a lot of Grace Kelly. And I could always use more, though, you know. It's never enough Grace Kelly.
Let me tell you something. Young Paul sees this movie. This might be the first Hitchcock I saw. Because in 1982, they finally released this movie, Rear Window, Rope, and I think The Trouble with Harry, all on VHS. There was a lawsuit. There was things that were stopping it from being released, but it finally got released. And I remember very distinctly watching this movie with my dad. And I think this was the first one that I saw, the Hitchcock, and immediately major crush on Grace Kelly. Immediately. I mean, I'm not weird. I think that
never said you were.
A very normal person.
I think you're weird if you don't have a crush on Grace Kelly, quite frankly. I love Grace Kelly. I got a little bit of a bone to pick with her, though, just a little bit. I would love her more if she hadn't, totally stolen the Oscar out from Judy. Because she did that.
Was that the country girl year? And
that
she
was the country girl, yeah.
Was that Star is Born?
Robbed!
By the way, she's great in The Country Girl. She is great in The Country Girl.
Totally.
It's just not that great of a movie.
Right. She ain't no... as great as she is in The Country... I'm sorry. She ain't no Judy in A Star is Born.
Well, you're comparing two kind of melodramatic roles. And Grace Kelly does great in that movie. But Judy Garland in A Star is Born, do yourself a favor.
Not only that, though, I feel that the awards shows often do this thing where they give people an award not just because the performance in question that is up for judgment that year is great, but they give them kind of this honorary, like it's a career thing. It's like we don't know if they'll ever be nominated again, so we got to make sure that we give this person an award for what they've done in there. The fact that Judy never. It's just not okay. It's just not okay. It should not be, but it is. And Grace Kelly, sadly, was that person to take it from Judy. So there's
especially since Judy Garland didn't get a lot of meaty roles. This was one of the
could act.
This is one of the few meaty roles they threw her, and she tears it up. So everybody do yourself a favor. Watch Star is Born. Watch that one. I know you've probably seen the Lady Gaga version or whatever, but really go back to watch the Judy Garland and James Mason. James Mason. And have yourself a ball, because it is good stuff.
Did this just turn into a Judy Garland podcast? Well, Jade's here, so of course it did.
We're always in danger of this becoming Judy Garland or Alfred Hitchcock podcast. And if Judy Garland had ever done a Hitchcock movie, that's probably all we would talk about. So
probably.
Yeah. So good thing that didn't happen.
So back to our other favorite thing, Hitchcocky.
Please. Yes. Let's get into it.
Hitchcock was, he was a problematic guy, but separating the art from the artist here, I love me some Hitchcock. I really do. I'm excited to talk about this one. So let's talk about it. So it was written by the guy who wrote the play that this was also based on, Frederick Knott. Not, I know it's. I always like to pronounce.
I think the second T is silent.
Indeed. So yeah, and it stars some glorious, amazing. It's a great cast we got here: Ray Milland, Anthony Dawson, Grace Kelly, John Williams, and Robert Cummings. Love them all.
Yeah. John Williams and Anthony Dawson in the Broadway production. John Williams winning the Tony for supporting actor for this role. Both are just. Anthony Dawson is another one of those, like, he shows up in like a James Bond film. If Anthony Dawson's on your screen, he's the bad guy. He's one of those actors. Like, he's not playing the hero in anything. He is the bad guy in some way.
So this was a little bit out of his type then, because he's definitely not the bad guy here. He's kind of like the sketchy guy.
Well,
the shifty guy.
He's a bad guy. I don't think there's anything good about Swan / Lesgett.
No, I'm not saying there's anything good about him, but he is
he's not the main bad guy. He's not the main bad guy.
He's almost like the scared, what am I trying to say? I feel that Ray Milland is much more the villain in this than.
Oh, absolutely.
And Andrew Dawson almost feels like the prey, the hunted, That
whole scene, and I know we're going to get there, but we'll start at the beginning, but that whole scene is such a seduction scene of blackmailing that is just, it's so good. So good.
Yes. Oh, yes. I could watch that. That's truly one of my favorite scenes in cinema.
I mean, I know you want to talk about the cinematography, all the different shots.
Oh, yeah. No, and we will. But truly, yes, I would love to discuss this scene, because another scene that I could go on and on about, another Hitchcock scene that has a lot of similarity to this, we did gush about in our Psycho podcast. The parlor scene between Janet Leigh and Tony Perkins.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I said this on the pod, probably my favorite scene ever on film. And it has so much in common. It's just two people sitting in a room, but then there's Hitchcock doing that thing he does with that camera. Ooh, buddy.
Well
it's
done.
Suspenseful. Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about that at all when I watched this scene. But you're absolutely right.
That kind of scene. It's very theatrical, and it is just my jam.
In both scenes, everything the camera's doing to give you different angles and different feelings of who has power at what point and who doesn't is. I mean, it's Hitchcock.
Exactly.
He knows how to do this, and he does it so well.
It's a masterful character study for, I think, both characters, but especially the Tony character, Ray Milland here. Ray Milland does this wonderful thing where he puts you at ease while also making you incredibly uneasy. Do you know what I mean?
He has this smile through almost the first 2/3 of the movie. This sort of this disarming, like when he is talking to Swan, he just has this very relaxed smile. And I want to go back to, we'll come back here, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around.
Don't be sorry.
But the beginning of the movie, there's this great scene at the very beginning that I never saw until now. But it's the breakfast scene or the dinner scene or the meal scene where they're sitting at the table, and he gives that little kiss to Grace Kelly and then goes and sits down, and he knocks over the salt and pepper shaker.
The salt. Mm-hmm.
And then he pinches it over his shoulder for good luck. This is the day that he's planning to kill his wife.
Yes.
This is a year in the making. And when he knocks that over, there's two things that tells me. One is that things are not all well in this relationship. There's tension happening. And second of all, he needs all the luck in the world for this scheme to pull off. Yes. And I don't know if that was a happy accident or if that was a happy accident and Hitchcock goes, oh no, that's in. Because that scene's not in the play. So it's
that was a Ray Milland little special for us. Yeah.
Ray Milland.
I firmly believe that.
Ray Milland, he's an Oscar winner. He won for The Lost Weekend. Kind of an underrated actor, but man, he plays that suave, slick.
He's so evil yet so charming.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And also,
so
you talk about the first part of the film. Really, Tony is the mystery here. The first part of the film, we are Swan trying to figure out what the hell Tony is up to.
Yeah.
And that blackmail scene, let's just talk about it. He drops like one trap after another, and scared little Swan is he's like the sitting duck. I mean, pun intended, I'm sure, for his name.
Yeah.
He's like politely blackmailing him.
Right.
And like I said, character study, he's an expert narcissist. He's a master manipulator. He's just smooth, charming, disarming. He does things like he admits his own crimes to gain his trust. He's like, I'm just like you. He is very clever, and he offers him free drinks, the good stuff. I was going to give you an indifferent port, but let's see. Oh, how about this brandy, And he's just puts him at ease. All the while, though, we see Swan he feels something's up,
Oh, yeah.
And then the way Tony just reveals the blackmail of he's been blackmailing his own wife, like it's just the most natural thing in the world. Like it's a mundane occurrence. I'm just, oh yes, I wrote her a blackmail note offering to sell it back. And Swan's like, why? Okay, guy. This is who you are. He's just trying to figure out Tony.
I think we're all trying to figure out Tony at this point.
Yeah.
We've seen him at breakfast. We've seen him kiss his wife. We also have seen his wife kiss Mr. Mark Holliday coming off the Queen Mary.
Right.
That's such a brilliant opening thing. And it reminds you that Hitchcock started in silent films, because he is showing you just these images after images of, here's a relationship. It's together, but it's not all together. And then the wife looks up, the wife looks down at the paper. We see the story. We see the ship. We see him coming off the ship. And then all of a sudden it's Grace Kelly and Robert Cummings, lucky Robert Cummings, getting to have a little smoochy scene. And then we start dialogue. As a viewer, you know exactly what's going on. It's
right.
Brilliant.
And then we do have this, it's a lot of show don't tell in a film that's just people talking. So whenever Hitchcock gets the chance to show and not just talk at you, he will always do that. He will always use the efficiency of words. If he can communicate things without words, he will always do it that way. With one look, he'll use the look. So we get this information about Tony in this exposition scene with Grace Kelly and Robert Cummings, where she says that Tony has changed. And so immediately we're wondering, well, who is this guy? What is he, a bad guy? So our interest is piqued. Mm-hmm. And my question to you is Tony a psychopath with no feelings, just kind of relishing watching his prey squirm under his clutches? Or is he conflicted by blackmailing and, killing. Does he have emotion, or is he just a sociopathic psycho? What is your take on Tony?
I was trying to figure out that too, because is he doing this for money, or is he doing this for revenge?
If we take him at his word, he says money.
Right.
But
and in the play, it's very clear that he's doing everything for money.
If he's doing everything for money, though, my question is why the killing? Like, why not just let your wife have the affair and you can just happily collect the paychecks? I guess because he's concerned that his wife's going to leave him.
He knows that this affair with Mark is over.
Well, he doesn't know that it's over. He knows that Mark had to leave and go back to America, but that doesn't necessarily mean he won't be back.
Right? Maybe he thinks that they're gonna strike up again, but that doesn't seem to be. He doesn't seem to play that. At least not in the conversations that he's having with Swan. It seems to be really about the money. But there's later times, like after she's convicted, that Mark shows up. By the way, Mark Holliday showing up after the woman that you cheated with is convicted of murder, showing up at the husband's house going, hey, you need to take the rap because we need to save her. I mean, do pants have enough room for those sizes of balls? Because I don't know how you fit those balls into just like a regular pair of slacks.
Robert Cummings cracks me up in that part. That is where the script it goes way off the rails. It gets a little silly, and Robert Cummings don't you see, Tony, that's my whole idea. He's just so zippity and like such a stark contrast to the Tony character.
In that scene where he's just like laying out all this stuff and he's laying out basically the plot of the movie perfectly.
It's just silly. It's so like, I love it. I know that this bothers so many people, but this is, I think just find it so endearing. It's part of the film that I'm like, ain't this just cute? It's so cute.
This is that era where you could just go watch a murder mystery in the theater. Can we bring that back? I'm sure that's out there someplace, but I love the idea. I'll be mentioning Columbo at some point, but when they turned Columbo, the first episode of Columbo, into a play and they were touring around with that. And it's just like, that was the era where it's like, you know what? Let's go have dinner. Let's go watch a murder mystery. And then let's go have drinks afterwards and talk about it. And it's like a dream. That's the dream right there.
That's my dream.
I want that life.
Absolutely. Yeah. The only thing that I can say about Robert Cummings, though, is he has negative chemistry with Grace Kelly. I'm not sure if Robert Cummings preferred men or women. There's a poll online I found because I could not find any information about what his sexuality was. Things were not explicit in those days about, back in these times, it was illegal, as we see later, for a man to carry that purse down the street. You'll be arrested. Don't carry it like that. Put it in this bag, So ridiculous.
Pearson?
Sir?
Take this handbag back to the police station and get that car out of the way.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait a minute, you clot. You can't walk down the street like that. You'll be arrested. Put it in this.
Hitchcock has this clear fascination with homosexuality, and whenever it's mentioned in one of his films, I never feel like he is against it. I always feel like he's pointing out, isn't this fucking ridiculous, people?
Oh, that's interesting. I would agree with that.
77% of people in this poll that I found voted that he was in fact gay. So I don't know if this is what I'm saying, though. There are two kisses that we see in this opening, right? With Tony and Margot, and Mark and Margot.
Right.
Now, clearly, I think that the kiss between Mark and Margot is supposed to be hot and steamy.
Right.
And did you find it to be? Because, I think that Hitchcock was doing all he could to get that, to evoke that steam. Because we've all seen, Hitchcock knows how to film a steamy kiss. We've all seen Ingrid Bergman and
Cary Grant.
We've all seen Notorious,
Wow.
Hays Code and all.
I was just going to say, getting around that Hays Code in a very sexy way.
Yeah, he can do it. But I'm sorry, with this, I'm just not sure if it's supposed to be hot or not, because there was, like I said, no chemistry between these two actors. For as much of this as this is centered around an affair, an adulteress, this is such a sterile film. There is nothing sexy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that being done better in another type of movie, or done better with another actor. I know they
Just
wanted
with another actor, yeah.
Yeah, I know they wanted Cary Grant for the Ray Milland part, and Cary Grant didn't want to play a villain.
No, I think that he probably did. The studio wouldn't let him.
Oh, that probably is true. Yeah.
Because we all saw Suspicion, and that film was very much hurt by the rewrites that had to be done so that Cary Grant didn't look like a villain. It's like, goddamn, just let him villain. I would have loved to see Cary Grant have a crack at this, but only if the studio would get the hell out of the way and just let him be evil. But they couldn't do that to their precious Cary Grant. You know, they had to preserve his image.
Well, and they couldn't make Cary Grant the Robert Cumming part because they would have been like, yeah, of course she's going to go off with Cary Grant.
Right, yeah.
What are we talking about?
And I think that this boyish energy that he has, this kind of blandness that Robert Cummings brings, it used to bother me. But on rewatch, I'm like, maybe it's right, though. Maybe this is because he's kind of, it's like I said, it's not about the sexy. It's not about, he could be anybody.
Right.
He's not the point. Although, I got to say, Robert Cummings was delightful and brought the majority of the humor. The time when I laughed the hardest in this film is when he is fighting with Hubbard for the checkbook. and John Williams is just doing his John Williams amazing serving face like none other can do. It really cracked me up. So Robert Cummings, he's talented. He's a very, very talented guy.
Oh, yeah, no.
So I used to think that he was wrong for the part. He was kind of the thing that was, outstanding and oh, God, this one casting choice, it could have been better. But now I'm like, I think he's actually right for it.
I don't think you can make that character too amazing, right? I mean, I think if he's too amazing, like as I said, if Cary Grant played that part or somebody that was like, then the balance is off. Obviously she's having this affair because Tony's not paying attention enough to her. He's off playing tennis. He's off doing his travels. He's off, gallivanting, maybe even having affairs of his own. Who knows? And she's at home waiting for him, and she got some company and got lonely, and he's a safe guy. He doesn't, he's not expecting too much. He's not, he's just kind of this little safety net for her. So it makes sense within this film for him to play that part. And he's not, like I said, he's not terrible. He's not terrible.
No,
but yeah,
no.
There's no heat. There's no heat.
He cracks me up, though.
Yeah.
I think that he was meant to crack me up at certain times, but then there were other times when he's cracking me up and it's not supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
But there's that opening scene with him and Grace Kelly where I just don't get the sense that he is attracted to women, and that's the only reason I say that is because how can you not have chemistry with Grace Kelly? Like how? You have to actively try not to appear to be attracted to her, no matter what your sexuality is, But there are so many moments in that scene with them in the beginning before Tony gets there when his energy is he's not focused on her in a way that someone who's deeply in love. He says like, that doesn't stop me from loving you, and it just seems like such a line delivery. Yeah, that he's saying because it's in the script and he just doesn't actually feel that way.
It's very possible. But they also get through that moment pretty quickly before Tony comes back in and we see the shadows of them separating.
Parting at the door.
I mean, again, the balls in this guy to be kissing the wife when like husband's coming down the street. I mean, this is ballsy American action, I guess. I'm on vacation
ballsy
in
American
London.
Action.
I guess I'm on vacation in London. I got to do whatever I want.
So back to Tony.
Sure.
He's talking to Swan about, while we're on the subject of attraction and sexuality and all that. Yeah, I get the sense a lot from Tony as opposed to Michael Douglas, say, in the remake that for me, Tony does not, I don't know that he's sexually attracted to anyone. I don't think Tony's having affairs. I don't think that he operates that way. I just feel like Tony is almost asexual. I feel like Tony's very much in love with himself. That's part of his creepy. And when he says he married her for money, like I said, it's stunning to me. I'm like, you're not attracted to Grace Kelly? Like, you have this woman and all he can think of is her money. You don't marry Grace Kelly for her money. The money is a great bonus, but that's not the reason you go for her, like she's Grace Kelly.
Well, the play makes this a lot more explicit But he comes right out and says, I married for money.
Well, he says it here too. And
he says one line, he says, I know I did. You know, when Swan says people make a business of that. But then in the play, he says, I always intended to marry for money. I had to. I was in first class tennis. I met wealthy people all over the world. I was somebody while my wind lasted. I decided to snap up the first chance I got. I nearly married a tubby Boston Deb with $5 million. Got as far as pictures in the papers, and then she threw me over for an heir to a grocery store chain. Funny how they stick together. I finally settled for a good deal less, a lot more easily. My wife had been a fan of mine for some time. And when Swan says, he's putting it bluntly, he says, have I shocked you? Hitchcock has this way of making his villains sympathetic.
Yeah.
We talked about that in Psycho with Norman Bates. You start to root for him to get away with things. In this, he's trying to set this up so that when it comes down to the end of it, we are worried that he's going to make a mistake. We are worried that he's going to not get the key out of the purse, or, something's, or Margot's going to decide to go to the movies and he's got to convince her to stay home. Making him sympathetic is going to tug at our allegiances as an audience. And that's going to make for a much more interesting viewing than if he's just like twirling mustache and I'm just a gold digger. That's always been a gold digger.
Yeah. There's a deep, deep performance going on here with Ray Milland. It's excellent.
That great, like, English civility kind of masking all of this stuff. That's what I love about those English dramas. I mean, I'm a big Harold Pinter fan, where it's just like, anytime like somebody says something polite in a Pinter play, you just know that's not what they meant.
Oh yeah.
What is it? What is it? The weasel under the cocktail table or something like that? That's a Pinter line where it's like, that is like, it's the party.
I never heard that.
Oh yeah. I think that's a Pinter description where it's like, it's a cocktail party, but there's a weasel underneath the cocktail table. And that weasel could come out at any time. But in the meantime, we all have to be civil, Yeah. I mean, we all have to have our martinis and we all have to be smiling and everything. But, in the meantime, the weasel is wanting to get out.
Right. Yeah. No, when you get complimented a little too much by a Brit, oh, charming. Oh, wonderful. How lovely. It's just,
Yeah.
It's great. But Tony is like this. He's so unflappable. He's just effortless in it's something that I just love about him. He never drops that. At the end, he never loses his cool. When he's completely caught, he just, anyone for a drink. Good show, old chap. Good. You got me.
The play ends with him just coming through the door and everybody kind of standing there. And then Hubbard goes for the phone and starts to dial for backup.
Dial B for backup.
There's no coda, there's no finishing lines and stuff like that. I love the fact that he's just like, it's the bar's right here. I might as well mix myself a drink. Anybody else want one? Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody? I suppose you're still on duty. Comb my mustache while I call the cops.
Mustache comb.
When you're ready to pontificate about John Williams, I am all for it. So you just tell me when. Okay, good.
Well, first, before we get there, though, I wanted to talk about Anthony Dawson while we're on the subject of Tony and all, and this lovely scene between them. I love Anthony Dawson in this. I can't wait to see. I have got to do it. I've got to seek out more performances of his because he is so great. The definition of just shifty. He's got this weakness to him. He's got this hunger, this desperation, this fragility about him that is just perfect. And he's just hilariously bewildered by Tony's like Rube Goldbergian death plot, just trying to keep up and figure out what's going on here.
But he also gets it. And that's the thing that's really amazing about that performance is that it starts as if he's like, well, this is ridiculous. And then as it's going, he's like, actually, this will probably work.
Right.
And and as a murderer of women myself, I can kind of appreciate the planning you've gone to. I mean, I just had
Nicely
to
done.
give some woman some drugs, but you.
When Tony is describing following him, the creepiness of Tony, the as sexual as Tony gets is when he says, "At times I felt you almost belonged to me." And
It is a seduction
That must have been interesting for you.
Yes.
I just love the way he takes it, trying to be so like seeing what's going on behind Anthony Dawson's eyes in this is so hilarious. It's a great study of the human condition, the awkwardness of having to keep your cool when you are freaking out inside, because how creepy is this? What a hammer to drop. I have been following you for months. It's like, what?
By the way, does Mrs. Van Dorn know about Mr. Adams and Mr. Wilson and Miss Wallace? You were planning to marry Mrs. Van Dorn, weren't you?
Smart, aren't you?
No, not really. I've just had time to think things out, put myself in your position. That's why I know you're going to agree.
What makes you think I'll agree?
For the same reason that a donkey with a stick behind him and a carrot in front always goes forwards and not backwards.
Tell me about the carrot.
£1,000 in cash.
For a murder?
For a few minutes' work, that's all it is. And no risk, I guarantee. That ought to appeal to you. You've been skating on pretty thin ice.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You ought to know. It was in all the papers. Middle-aged woman found dead due to an overdose of something. Apparently she'd been taking the stuff for quite some time, and nobody knows where she got it. But we know, don't we? Poor Miss Wallace.
Tony's got him. Tony's got his number.
Got him.
To
the point
he
where
has figured this out.
Yeah, we were talking about the show Don't Tell, and although this is a big old 22-minute exposition scene of just Tony monologuing at us, it's all about what's not said. The body language is revealing so much. The way Swan at one point just has to completely turn away from him. He can't even look him in the eye because he's so he's like a naughty schoolboy who's been called out and caught.
Yes.
It's a brilliant performance. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so special.
You mentioned the 22 minutes, and I have to say this because this was really a thing for me. It's 22 minutes from when Swan enters to when Swan picks up the money and you know that he is in. Mm-hmm. And then we get the next scene, the pre-funk to the stag party to the murder. Then we get that intermission sign. Mm-hmm. 22 minutes from that point to the intermission. I mean, that goes to the writing, and it also goes to Hitchcock knowing how to balance this stuff out. It is a machine that he is running here, but it doesn't feel like a machine. It feels like it's all happening but when I saw that, I was like, very efficient.
Hitchcock films, analyzing them is like taking apart a Swiss watch. It truly is, because the levels and the layers, like the voyeuristic quality we feel in this scene, this 22-minute scene, we are in that room. I can smell it. I can feel it. I can touch it. It's so palpable, and it feels like I'm watching a play. I'm close to the actors, just as if I were sitting in an audience. It's like we're watching this private life, and we're behind these lamps where we got these low angled ankle or knee level shots to communicate. And then when Tony is laying out his murder death plot, it's all done overhead, almost like behind the scenes footage of a director working on a film with an actor. He's directing, okay, this is how it's going to go. Then this is your mark, blocking it out, you know?
When would this take place?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow? Not a chance. I've got to think this over.
It has to be tomorrow. I've arranged things that way.
Where?
Approximately where you're standing now. Tomorrow evening, Halliday, that's the American boyfriend, and I will go out to a stag party. She'll stay here. She'll go to bed early and listen to Saturday Night Theater on the radio. She always does when I'm out. At exactly 3 minutes to 11, you'll enter the house with the street door. You'll find the key to this door under the stair carpet here.
The fifth step.
That's the one. Go straight to the window. Hide behind the curtains.
There are two shots that are very outstanding in this scene that are the judicial use of close-ups.
Yes.
He does this one great close-up when Swan is emptying out his pipe and he turns over his shoulder when Tony says, I saw you. Bam.
Yeah.
But then before that, there's this weird panning shot to Swan where we're on Tony and he says, I thought of killing her. And then that seemed like a far more sensible idea. And just as I was working out how to do it, I saw something which completely changed my mind. Cut to this panning shot of to the right of Swan, I believe, on the couch. And then the camera slowly finds his face.
Right.
It's foreshadowing. It is. What did he find? Just as we in the camera just found Swan as the subject of this shot, Tony found Swan. It's just such brilliant storytelling.
There's something about this formula. And, I said I was going to talk about Columbo. This formula of who the villain is and you know what the plan is and you know who's going to get murdered before it ever happens.
Yeah.
There's a nice thing about that when it comes to mysteries in that the writer can't cheat. You can't introduce something that wasn't shown. You have to stick to the plan.
He totally plays fair.
Yeah, you have – exactly. I know you've used that term before with Hitchcock. You have to play fair.
It's one of my favorite things about him.
Because if you don't, it gets to the end, and if you're like, well, here's a Deus Ex Machina clue that was never introduced before –
oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to go, no.
All the integrity is totally dropped. The wind just right out of the sails. It's like, what a bummer. What a cheat. Rigged.
Yes. Yeah.
I want my money back. Truly, though, it is. It really is. Yeah. And I love that Hitchcock stuck to that. It was almost like he knew his audience. And that is the thing. Hitchcock was a property in himself because he's this weird ass guy that everyone just kind of trusted and wanted in their living room. And he really rolled with that. And he knew that was going to be his thing. He's always in the room. He's every element of the film has his unmistakable handprint on it, He's either in the room or he's in a really badly mocked up photograph. Yeah.
Where he's the only real person in that photograph. I feel like that picture of Swan with the cigar.
It's so cute.
I know we're in an era where you're not rewinding and you're not being able to pause on anything, but damn. You couldn't cut around that head just a little bit better. It's one of the few little flaws, and I'm sure Hitchcock saw that and was like, "Well, that'll go right by really quickly. Who cares?"
Yeah.
And the fact that when the detective comes in and he's showing the picture again, they don't go back to that picture. He knew. He knew it wasn't that good.
Best to stay off it.
It's like the guy he looks like Groucho Marx without the mustache in that photo.
Yeah.
He got that cigar like way out there.
I know.
It's like make sure we can see the cigar. Okay.
Yeah, really. Yep.
It's the like biggest cigar in the business. Sticking out of his face.
What a murderous thug I look. Yes, you do, rather. Got to commit a murder to not go to jail for having already committed a murder. So
yeah,
once you kill, it's easy to kill. Sometimes you got to. It's like a snowball effect,
Yeah, you done it once. You know how it goes. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
How many people have just roughly? How many people have you murdered? I mean, just as a rough estimate.
Me personally?
Yeah, we'll cut this out. Go ahead. Just give me like a rough.
I mean, like just a mere handful.
Just today.
Today only just the one.
Ah, okay.
Amateurs.
You gotta work harder, not smarter. No, the other way. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, there you go. I love the fact that the murder plot goes so awry right from the very beginning, most basic elements when Tony what tips the whole thing off? Tony knows at this time I will make this phone call. Well, didn't get that one right. It's like, here we go. It's all downhill from here.
Oh, you start to see it from the pre-funk that they're having with the drinks and everything, where he's like, I've got to figure out how to get the key out of the purse. I've got to figure out how to convince Margot to stay home and do scrapbooking.
Right.
Those are the little issues he did not think of when he was spending the year planning to blackmail Swan. he's like, oh yeah, I got to get the key. Oh, what if she doesn't want to stay home? Oh, okay. It starts to go wrong right away.
Right away, right? Yeah. The most basic elements just can't even handle that. And the biggest oversight, though, in my opinion, is that he didn't tell Swan how to murder Margot. And one of the funniest moments, again, with Andrew Dawson, just perfect acting here, is when he tries to strangle her and he's like, I didn't intend for there to be a phone in the way. Damn it. Oh, shit. I didn't think this one through.
He figures that he's killed before. He'll have a way. But for everything that goes wrong, it goes very right. Which was just the luck of, I mean, that's the amazing thing about this script, which I really like, is that everything goes horribly wrong. The wrong person dies. Everything goes wrong. And then there's that great shot of him coming home from, and this is the efficiency again, coming home from the stag party. He's in the back of the cab, but they don't waste any time. They focus in on his face, and you can tell he is trying to figure out what the next step is going to be.
Yeah.
He is trying to figure out how he's going to fix this.
This is going to work. We got this. I got this.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 minutes to do it and to completely reframe the whole thing. Yeah, it's brilliant. The thing I would say that always, again, cracks me up, even though it's not supposed to, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be kind of funny. It's just absurd. The improbable use of these scissors, the gleaming, shining scissors, which are beautifully shot.
Yeah.
So Margot stabs him in the back, which, no, that's, sorry, not at all possible. The way that the angle that she's at, one good swift stab, no. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying what you're selling here. But
no. Wait. The scissors in the back doesn't kill him.
No, I don't. Right, exactly.
Falling on the scissors is what kills him.
The improbable, yet again, fall. So first he does this ants in his pants, like ha, he, ha, hoo, like, which is again funny. I don't know if it's, maybe it is supposed to be kind of funny. I think it might be. I think Hitchcock, he was no dummy, so maybe he intended us to be just like, hi, look at him die. And then yes, he for some reason needs to go kind of up to the sky and then make a ballerina twirl and fall right on his back. And it is a very gross and somehow oddly satisfying moment to see those scissors crunch right in the...
I forgot that was the thing. I thought it was the stab and he fell down dead. And then as he was twirling around in the trying to figure out, and I was like, oh, right. That's going deep. Oh, you can't pull those out. That's done. But this is also the era. If you watch any Westerns, this is the yawn and stretch death scenes. It's like everybody's like, nobody can just like, we're not getting Jane Weedland in Clue just falling over dead. No, we're gonna get a big like production out of
operatic death scene. Yes, and it is
music's gonna come up and everything's gonna happen. It's gonna do that.
It is a thing though in the theater that I learned in my training. You never die on stage inward. You don't collapse into yourself as you realistically would do it in real life. You always die upwards. You reach to the heavens. And why? Because it looks good. Because the audience gets to see your face. Yeah. It's like when Grace Kelly does that. Row. Yeah, all the way to the cheap seats. It's like when Grace Kelly does the reach for the scissors. It's so just dramatic and not the way you would reach if you were trying to actually get something off of a desk. You'd probably have your palm down, but that ain't no drama. So you gotta, and that's of course, when you see it in 3D, I think is the only 3D major moment of, whoa, we're in 3D now. That hand reaching, I don't know. I've never seen this in 3D, but I've heard people remark on that moment.
I was going to say, if a theater could get a hold of one of those 3D prints. I don't even know if those 3D prints are still around, but if some theater could get a hold of those, I would love to see exactly what they did in 3D that was what needed to be in 3D.
Warner Brothers was so insistent that this was a 3D film. I'm just like, why? And then it backfired horribly. People did not get it. They had to re-release it real quick after, flat. And Hitchcock had a great quote where he said that 3D was a 9-day wonder and I came in on the 9th day.
He may have come in on the 10th day. as a filmmaker, I could also see him being interested in that, in like, okay, what does this do to the depth of field? What does this do to how,
Yeah.
this is why I would love to see it. Maybe it's not the 3D where things are coming at you and you have to like duck in the theater. Maybe there is a depth of field. Maybe that seduction scene in 3D has some other angles that we don't see in the 2D version.
I would love to know. I would love to see it. Yeah, if anyone's got some insight as to how this film reads in 3D, please let me know.
Yeah, we would if you have seen this in 3D, because I'm sure there's a 3D print out there somewhere that's been shown at a film festival or some sort of art house retrospective or something like that. Let us know, and also send us a print, please. I'll put on the glasses.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll put on those and then we'll see the scissors gleaming.
The scissors must gleam.
This is the first time I've heard Jade's Hitchcock impression, and it is, I'll say,
really going for it.
Flawless impression.
Well, I don't know about all that. I think it could use a little work. But I don't necessarily know that Hitchcock's Hitchcock impression was that great either, so there's that.
It's not happiness to see me, is it?
He was waiting for me. He knows.
You did not meet my wife by chance.
What are you saying?
It was a con, and my wife is the grand prize.
I want.
You got a box big enough to hold $500,000.
For?
Killing my wife.
That's not happiness to see me, is it?
A perfect murder.
Tell me what you thought of A Perfect Murder, the 1998 remake.
To say it's a remake is that's a stretch.
Loosely based, you would say.
Yeah, it was taking some liberal making some liberal changes. Yeah, this is not a very clear remake. There's a lot that's different, and I get a completely different read off of the characters. You know, for example, I do not care at all that. Okay, so Dial M for Murder it's all about. I just want Tony to get caught. I have such a major issue with the fact that Grace Kelly is on death row over here. I'm like, no, please make it stop. She cannot die. He needs to get caught. Although I really do kind of love Tony, and I love to watch him in his creepy, shifty, crazy, just unhinged, like I said, just nutso year-long death plot. It's brilliant, but I can't wait to see him get his comeuppance. With Michael Douglas, I was on his side. And maybe that's just because Gwyneth Paltrow ain't no Grace Kelly. She doesn't, in my opinion, hot takes, I know, but I'm not that big of a fan. So I get why they chose Grace Kelly. I mean, I get why they chose Gwyneth Paltrow to be the Grace Kelly character, but yeah. And then there's the Vigo of it all.
Oh, right. It's Vigo.
Vigo infiltrates another Hitchcock remake. Insert Psycho music here. Vigo Mortensen.
Oh, in the same year. In the same year that they did the Psycho remake, he's also in this. Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. I think we talked about that on our episode, but that's wild. I forgot that it was another Vigo joint.
Yep, it sure is. Vigo with the marbles in his mouth. Just like, speak clearly. Can you just a little more volume, please? Just he bothers me in this hilarious way. He just like, I don't really care. Whatever, you know. I kind of just think it's funny to hate on him, but you really can't understand a goddamn word the guy says, and it's kind of a bummer. Bums me out.
So would you say it's almost as good as Dial M for Murder?
I have heard so many people say that they like the remake better. I think that there's just a large, nowadays, it's easy to just not get Dial M for Murder and just it's not your thing. I understand if you're not a theater person, if you're not a classic film person, you're not going to get it, you know? And by far and away, the best thing about the remake is one Mr. David Suchet, incognito Poirot, Hercule Poirot, sans pistachios.
The detective. Oh, good.
With an American accent.
That's a great casting choice.
Yes.
That is a great casting choice.
It is. And it's shameful, like Madeline Kahn in Clue, criminally underused. I mean, it's a crime how little he is in the film.
The detective role in this play and in the screenplay should be pretty prominent.
Yeah.
Especially if you are going off the template of Dial M for Murder and the greatness that is John Williams. This is Tony Award-winning John Williams, the actor. And he is...
delightful.
He brings all the humor into the whole thing. He's kind of the anti-Columbo in that he is like prim and proper and not disheveled at all. But he does get to say just one more thing at one point.
He does.
Like, oh,
you're
yay,
right.
Yay.
Oh,
just one more thing. Just one more thing.
Oh, I love it.
What did you think about the Grace Kelly scene with the light changes? It's like the trial, or it's like the arraignment, the trial, the sentencing, like all in one scene. I mean, very theatrical.
Yeah.
Very black box theater moment there.
Yes.
Where it's just like, we're just going to do this with lighting changes and a little bit of music, and just she's playing one emotion and then slightly a different emotion and a slightly a different emotion. What did you think of that scene? As an actress, what do you think of that scene?
I like it a whole lot. I appreciate that it was done so that we didn't have to leave the apartment. And again, with the one scene where we do leave the apartment, we don't get a huge sense of that space. It is very tightly close up at that dinner table, and then a medium shot of Ray Milland in that phone booth. So and then we see him again, very like a heightened, stylized cab scene. It's all very Vertigo, isn't it? And I really like it because it keeps us in the world. It keeps us in the room, in the back of our minds. We're still in that apartment. We haven't left yet. We're getting these little like thought bubble glimpses into other things that are going on, but we are never in that reality. The reality is always at that apartment.
I think I've asked you this before. Do you think mysteries are better when it's kind of hermetically sealed like that?
Yes, it's called a closed circle mystery, and they're my favorite kind of mysteries. I
was thinking about Only Murders in the Building being kind of, we're going to stay in this one building. Mm-hmm. It's really just like what's happening in this one location. And I never heard that phrase before, the closed circle mystery. And I love that because I think it does help kind of focus in on what's going on, and you're not distracted by everything. That's like the worst Columbo episodes are when he's like in London and he has to like do all the London things.
That was a really bad one.
It's like, it's just not good. There's lots of things bad with that episode, but it's much better when it's, the drawing room, it's the parlor, everything kind of happens in one space.
You think about
it's just so much easier.
What is Agatha Christie just known for? It's Murder on the Orient Express. It's
Death on the Nile.
Well, yeah. And even Death on the Nile does get a little, you're on the boat a fair amount, and it does go a little bit outside the boat, but the closed circle aspect of it can only be this many people. We've only got these players to play with. It's not just any old person could be the killer. It serves to create this paranoia feel, this creepy, like I'm suffocating, the walls are closing in on me. It gives me murder mystery vibes. And then There Were None, another great example. They can't leave this like deserted island, Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that Rear Window has a lot of aspects to it that are very murder mystery until the point when Grace Kelly leaves and becomes our hero. And then all of a sudden we're in a thriller.
Yeah.
Another one that came to mind was Stage Fright, another Hitchcock. That is, they're gallivanting all around the town. There's a lot about that film that is, I was like, wow, this is kind of a murder mystery. I forgot that. But at the end of the day, I get psychological thriller a lot more from it. Kind of like in the same vein as Vertigo, because he's running all over the place, doing his detective work investigation. We're very close with Jimmy Stewart, and we're very close with a limited amount of characters, but it does give me thriller, psychological thriller. So I think, I think that the closed circle aspect serves murder mystery very well.
You've brought up Stage Fright, and that is a blind spot for me. I need to fix that. I need to see Stage Fright.
Oh, yeah. Marlene Dietrich is delicious. in that film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of those that just, for some reason, I've seen so many of the Hitchcock films, especially the stuff since he came to Hollywood, and that's one that I just have not seen, and I'm gonna put that on the list.
I envy you
remedy.
because there's a great twist in it, and once you know the twist,
ooh, good.
I love to rewatch it. I could definitely, just knowing a twist doesn't ruin anything for me, but I do envy you not knowing that twist. So please watch it and report back sooner than later. I will be very anxious to know what you think.
Maybe we'll talk about it on this very podcast.
It was a suggestion I was going to throw out there.
That's a mystery too.
Right. It kind of is. And a lot of similarities were coming up in my rewatch of Dial M for Murder with Rope. It's kind of like Rope and Dial M were like his dry runs for Rear Window, just getting into these only happening in one space. There's a murder, there's a death, we got to cover shit up. And the mystery isn't necessarily how is it going to happen. It's not a whodunit. The mystery isn't necessarily who done the thing. It's how is the person who done it going to get caught. It's a how catch 'em. It's a Columbo, You
get to be part of the mystery solving team.
Right.
And you have somebody on screen that is helping you out, and you've seen all the clues. It's really laid out for you, but you're going to miss something, and at the end you're going to go, "Oh, right." It's so satisfying.
You know what a satisfying thing is? Back to John Williams, can we? May we? We veered off of him, and I don't know how that happened. But the big twist in this, that he turns out to be our hero. When does that happen? I'm surprised when he comes in, because at first he is this horrible, frustrating cop, and he's pretty awful. He's given Margot a real hard time, and I'm like, stop it. Please stop it. Leave her alone.
Right.
Step away from the blonde, gorgeous lady, please.
But I will say he is following the evidence that is being put in front of him at the time.
Right. And we have to read this in the time it was set in too. And this is very pre-Me Too. This is way pre Me Too.
But he's also keeping this thing open. I mean, obviously he has to arrest her because she killed him. He doesn't arrest her
just because she killed him.
Well, yeah.
No.
I mean,
that's not the reason that she gets arrested. She gets arrested because of what Tony does to fuck it all up, to frame her, basically. But she's not immediately arrested.
Right,
she's taken for questioning,
She's taken for questioning because she did kill the guy.
Yeah.
He knows somewhere along the line that something's not right.
His blood was up. And when he does if you're if you can't watch me, just know that his blood was up. He's doing the Rosie the Riveter, like, we can do it kind of aw shucks arm. And it is so cute. I love John Williams. He's so cute.
I had to find out where he got that money and how. And then I remembered that after you were arrested, we searched this flat. And I saw a copy of his bank statement in that desk. So yesterday afternoon, I went to the prison and asked to see your handbag. While I was doing this, I managed to lift your latchkey. Highly irregular, of course, but my blood was up.
John Williams is so surprising in this because I love this story is just great, because by the end, we have a policeman kind of acting like a criminal, and the criminal, Tony, kind of acts like a policeman. With Swan, he does all this investigating, tailing him undercover,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really like the cop kind of. That's, I think, why he's so good at all of this, because he can think like a detective. And I think that's why the detective, John Williams is so good. Hubbard just kills it because he's not afraid to get his hands dirty.
Maybe if there's a lawyer out there listening, or watching, let us know how much of this will hold up in court.
Yeah.
The stealing of the overcoat, the keys, the all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he says it's quite unorthodox what he does, what Hubbard does.
Mrs. Windus, what I've got to tell you may come as a shock.
Yes?
We strongly suspect that your husband had planned to murder you.
Tony arranged for Swan to come here that night and kill you.
How long have you known this?
Did you suspect it yourself?
No, never. And yet... What's the matter with me, Mark? don't seem able to feel anything. Shouldn't I break down or something?
It's delayed action, that's all. In a couple of days, you're going to have the most wonderful breakdown.
So we've saved the, I don't know, the best for last, one of the best, Grace Kelly. We haven't really talked much about her. We talked about her here and there, but is there more that we can say about her? The thing that I wanted to point out is her delightfully odd British accent in this. It's just so cute. Her voice is great in this. What a range of sound she can do.
I just want to hear her say the words Tony.
Tony. This character of Margot, we know the least about her. She goes from aloof to worried to gay and light and oh haha, and we're gonna have a wonderful time. But even in that, she's still hiding stuff. She's never truthful. And then she's terrified. I mean, batshit, like just out of her mind with fear and horror. And then she's numb. And then she has this breakdown of emotion, and it's just with like 5 pages of dialogue to go on. She has so few lines. I mean, really, Grace Kelly does not get enough credit. She is the unsung hero of this film because she's the emotional, she's the heart.
When she goes off to jail after the trial, she's gone for a significant amount of the movie, really until like the last 15 minutes. Yeah. Where she comes back in after they bring her back in where they're about to catch Tony.
Right.
That's when she comes back in.
And all the while that she's gone, the film hangs on you, the audience, getting so emotionally invested in getting behind her to stand by. No, please do not kill this woman. It's all about, that's the major question is will she die for this thing she didn't do? And you really have to, Hitchcock really had to believe in Grace Kelly enough to know that the audience would care so much about her. And we do. And I'm sorry, the same thing is not achieved with Gwyneth Paltrow. And we see a whole lot more of her. And she does a lot of her own detective heroing work. And I just don't care about Gwyneth Paltrow in that film. I don't know that I care about Gwyneth Paltrow in any film. Sorry. Oh, it's not sorry. It's how I feel.
Oh, and just so you know, I did read the Wikipedia synopsis of A Perfect Murder, so I do know what happens at the end, and I do know the basic. But believe me, I would at this point rather read the synopsis than watch the movie.
Yeah, I don't think this is the thing. It's not a bad film. Like I said, it's pretty beautifully shot. It's well done. It looks great. Yeah. That's something that it really has going for it. The music is always underscoring the action. It's in a very kind of 90s way, but the camera's always moving. It puts you in the room in a different way, but sort of on an equal level as what Hitchcock is doing. So it does work on that level, but I don't know if I like or hate the fact that Viggo, the Mark character, is kind of the bad guy in a way. He's a criminal. He's got this criminal background, and he, like Swan, has taken these women for all they're worth, and he's gone to jail for it. So he's got a rap sheet, and Michael Douglas finds that out and goes to him and says, I know that you're sleeping with my wife, and now here's what you're going to do for me so that I don't get you into more trouble. I could, with the information that I dug up on you with because he gets a private investigator on him, he says, I could basically throw you back in jail. So if you don't want to go back to jail, then you're going to kill my wife. And I don't understand. It just sucks that so much of that film is about Viggo Mortensen's character and so much of his performance, because you got Viggo Mortensen with he's this 90s, got the 90s hair, very moody, tortured artist. Mm-hmm. And he has his mad Pollock moments where he's making these giant artistic, there's a big art piece he has of Gwyneth Paltrow's face, and when he thinks that she's suddenly in love with her husband again, he takes black paint and just slashes at it, like while he's talking on the phone with her in his like, hey baby, I'm Viggo Mortensen, yeah, I'm acting.
Oh my God, Viggo Mortensen now in the on the podcast. Wow, Hitchcock, and can we get a conversation between Hitchcock and Viggo Mortensen, please? That would be very exciting.
Oh man, I think I need some tequila for that one. making Jade the channel work overtime. Yeah, the podcast is star-studded today. We had a big budget for this podcast.
As you said, Mark, it might work out on paper, but congratulations, Inspector. Oh, by the way, well, how about you, Margot?
Yes, I could do with something.
Mark?
So could I.
I suppose you're still on duty, Inspector.
I have such a ball with this film. This Dial M for Murder is it goes beyond a comfort watch for me. It's my, when I'm feeling sick as a dog watch. Because that's how invested I get that I will leave my body and I will be glued to the screen. No bathroom breaks, no snack breaks, no need.
Sure.
I am in it. Once we hit go, we are off to the races and there's no stopping. It's just, I could watch this. I watch this film probably more than any other Hitchcock film, even though it's not my favorite Hitchcock. It's that comfy, cozy, my Agatha Christie heart just can't get enough.
Folks, if you have not seen this movie, get your best whoever, get on the couch, get your libations, your snacks, get a nice comfy blanket, put this movie on.
Oh, yeah.
And have yourself a wonderful evening. If you've seen Hitchcock, but you haven't watched this one, maybe you thought it was kind of corny, it's really a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And the performances are great. And again, it's not my favorite Hitchcock either, but it's definitely like top. It's so weird because Hitchcock's made so many movies. Top 10? Easily top 10.
Oh, yeah. Easily top 10.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe even for rewatchability, it's probably even higher than that. Because there's some Hitchcock that it's like, I can do without seeing Vertigo for a while.
Totally.
But,
yeah. I can't go without seeing this for very long. Yeah. I will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 If you're staying home from work or school sick and you want to see something classic, this is as good as one as you can see.
Truly, truly gripping. That's why it's so good when you are not feeling great and you just need to disappear a little bit and forget about your own life. I'm pretty guaranteed if you got a brain in your head, that'll happen when you watch this film.
And if you want to make it a double feature, 1954 Grace Kelly double feature, throw Rear Window on afterwards and just have yourself a Grace Kelly 1954 party.
Hell yeah. And maybe throw some rope in there too.
And invite Jade and I to this party because my God, we'll bring snacks.
I was just going to say that. I will bring snacks. All right, my loves, that is going to wrap her all up for today. But if you would like to see the full video of this episode, you can do that on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/perfectlymarvelouspodcast. And you also get access to a bunch of our delicious bonus content. You get all the episodes that we put out ad-free. You get them early. You get full videos of every podcast. It's amazing. It's a rip-roaring good time. Check it out.
Comment.
Yeah.
Nicely. Leave a nice comment. This is the point where your mom would say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Say something nice and then say it all in our comments. The more likes and comments we get on our channel, the easier it is for other people like you to find us, help us reach our goal, because we want to get to 1 billion subscribers. But if we can get 1,000 of you, then that's going to help us out
It's a good
immensely.
start.
So please do that. But, billion is where we're trying to get to.
Indeed. If you like the podcast, please give those 5 stars a good smacking. And if you really want some bonus points, then leave us a favorable review as well. And or share the podcast with fellow mystery lovers. That would be simply grand. And also you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Shall We Compare Thee. And you can leave us feedback there. Or email us at shallwecompare@gmail.com. And we really love voicemails, so you can send those as well. Also, my Instagram is Jade the Naked Lady, all one word, and my TikTok is Jade8Green. That's the number 8. All the links for all the things are in the description, so check it out. Thank you so much for listening,
Right on.
my lovelies. We've enjoyed so much this time with you. Until next time, I'm Jade.
And I'm Paul.
And I have a piece of advice for you. in the middle of the night when the phone rings and you pick it up and no one's there, don't repeatedly say, hello.
Hello?
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 Hello?